Tonight we are going to feature AKUSA in the Connecticut chapter. Tonight I want to introduce everybody. All right, we have John Kelly. Welcome. Thank you for coming on.
Hey, guys.
We have Sean Bornick. Welcome, Sean. Sean is experiencing technical difficulty with lighting.
The child prodigy.
Phil. Thank you, Phil, for coming on.
Glad to be here.
Hello, guys. Before we jump into things, how's everybody doing despite the
I can't hear Dean.
What's that?
Doing good. Just dying to get back to training, but I don't know when that's gonna be.
Yeah, I'm doing well.
Yeah. So, what have you guys been doing as far as private training? Anything solo oriented?
Absolutely. I try to practice every day. I'll do my solo forms. I put up that little video of my training partner with the two arms and a stick in the middle. The speed ball that I showed you, Dean, the tennis ball.
Oh, yeah.
And just, visualization, that type of thing. But trying to get in at least 45 minutes, 5 days a week of some kind of training. I actually tried training my wife in basic knife stuff. And if you ever want to learn how to defend against broken rhythm, try to show somebody who doesn't know anything of martial arts. As much as you think you know, when they're jabbing at an inconceivable angle,
right?
It's a wake-up call.
Yeah.
Or she could be trying to kill me. I'm not sure.
Yeah, but she might give you just such a different energy that maybe could be helpful or useful. Coming from an untrained individual.
And you're not allowed to hit back, so just in case anybody wants to go that far. But definitely doing some training.
Can you hear me? Sean? I don't know if Sean is hearing me. And he was the other day. Well, Sean, give me a thumbs up if you can hear me or not. Yeah, he's definitely not hearing me.
Oh, no.
That's got to be just his speaker. Sean, your speaker might not be enabled. Something's got to be going on because you were hearing me the other day. And if you can't, try your phone.
I can't hear you, Dean.
Yeah. Try your phone or another device.
Where's the extension?
We need another
cord
phone to text them or something.
For a lamp to put over here.
Hey, Mike. All right, well, we'll get going, and then we'll get him going, hopefully. All right, obviously, the majority we're going to cover is AK and your guys, how you guys think about it, feel about it, through experience and, being exposed to it. But before we do that, just for the people who might not know you guys and all that, I obviously have a general idea of your guys' background, but just as far as FMA background, like your first introduction, exposure, who, when, and where. And the way I was doing it last time was I would rotate. So let's say, for instance, if I start with Phil, the next question I would start with somebody else, just so somebody's not, everybody's got a fair chance to answer without being redundant and what have you. So, John, let's start with you. Your first FMA experience, God knows how many decades ago.
Yeah, that was
I can hear both of
early
them. I can't hear Dean.
90s, I think. Late 80s, early 90s. I can't really remember. And it was Ron Kozakowski. And like I mentioned in one of our other interviews, I saw a video of him. It was like a commercial or something. And he was doing all the different art forms. He was doing JKD. He was doing his integrated grappling system. He was doing the sticks and everything else. And I was just fascinated by that, because I had been doing traditional martial arts before that. Tang Sudo, Aikido, Aki Jiu-Jitsu, those kind of things. So I was really interested in that. And so I started taking classes, and I did all the different classes, JKD, the grappling, the stick, and the knife, and everything else. Then, I got turned on to the Gracies. They came out before they were famous. Horian and Hoist came out, trained with them for a while. But then when I came back, we started getting together. And I don't even remember what year that was.
That was about because I was still at Columbia Boulevard, whatever. So that was around circa 98 or so.
Oh, okay. So yeah, I did that training, and we started training, and pretty much all my colleague comes through you. And you had a knack for finding the best people that were available to us. And I just absorbed the information and took a beating. So it was all good. I could give good resistance. I'll give myself that credit.
Yeah. God, he is so good with the.
I keep it real, that's for sure.
But here, I just want to just back up a bit. When you were at Ron's, I think it's fair to say you were initially exposed to what I'm guessing was the La Costa and Anasano blend.
Yes. Yeah, he would have like it was Anasano, if I remember. Larry Hartzell was big. He came out for a bunch of seminars for the grappling pieces. But I didn't spend at that time. I didn't spend a ton of time in the Kali. I was much more interested in the JKD and the integrated grappling systems. But I did do Kali, but it wasn't really my major focus until we got together.
Okay, but so like just before we move on, like your initial thoughts, like what you were exposed to at that time.
It was bizarre in a way because I'd never seen anything like it. You know what I mean? Like any of the weapons training that I had done had been like forms and things like that. So like, Ron rolling sticks on his shins and these guys beating the hell out of each other with like barely any gear. You know what I mean? You come back, your knuckles would be bloody. It was pretty intense, but it was so different than anything else I had ever been exposed to.
Yeah, that you've done, right?
It was probably similar to some of the beating you get when you train with gold. It's like I was just lost, and man, I just come home just all beat up. Especially my knuckles, forearms. It was fun though.
The thing with David Gould is I actually know what's going on. I just can't stop.
Right? You got a ton of training. Yeah. He's
all right.
something.
Scott, Sean's father just messaged me, and apparently Sean can hear everybody but me. So what I'm going to do is when I ask Sean a question, if you guys could just repeat it.
Yeah, I can relay it to him.
Okay. So Phil, let's get on with you. I have a general idea, but just for the people who perhaps don't, your first initial FMA background, who, where, and when.
Okay, I just happened to pull out an old certificate again. My first FMA background was with Remy Praisas in Middletown, Connecticut, and it was on 1984. Was my first seminar with him.
That early. That's like,
wow.
If you said Stockton, California, I'd be like, okay. Connecticut, 84.
1984, and as I'd said on one of the previous podcasts, I had bought his book through Black Belt Magazine, and a few months later, that's when the seminar world was starting to blow up around here, and I saw an ad, and he was coming to Middletown, which wasn't far from where I lived. So I started with him, and I had taken Kenpo Karate before that, and I'd taken Judo before that, and but what I liked about Arnis was that you were doing something right away. Whether we were doing the tappy, we were doing the flow drills, and they were basic, but you were doing something, you were feeling something, you were doing it within, a couple of hours. Professor Praisas was a great guy, always smiling, going from person to person. And again, as I said about Edgar Salite, he was one of those guys who could make the worst person look like he was a pro. I started with him, and I stayed with that system for quite a while, and I ended up getting a black belt in it, and actually helped teach down at Middletown Kenpo Arnis for a little while. But it kind of whet an appetite, and at the Kenpo school, where I was doing some of the teaching, I met a training partner who I was with for about 20 years, and we started to go to all the Inosanto seminars in Queens, New York, and with Rick Tucci. I think the guy in Queens' name was Neil Cowleaf, and
Yep, that's it. Yep.
I don't know if that name rings a bell with anybody,
Yeah,
but
he was a big Anasazi guy. Still is, I think. Yep.
yeah. So I went. We went to his stuff with Dan Inosanto, and Inosanto opened up a whole nother, aspect. And then through that, I also learned Bhukti Nagara, which I stayed with the Silat, which I stayed with Rick Tucci for about 3 years, and then decided to go to New Jersey, where I went to the Bakbakan in New Jersey, and I met up with Ray Galang, and I stayed with them for about 3 years. And they, Master Ray focuses very heavily on Illustrissimo.
Yeah.
The difference is that he puts in a lot of sayas, a lot of forms, and as a matter of fact, there's 2 stick forms, and I think 5 knife forms and 4 or 5 double stick forms. But the difference is that you'll do them, but then you have to apply them, and they have to be applied correctly. So you're not just learning forms and then not using them. You're using them, and he also gears them to everybody's physical makeup. If you're a heavier guy, you might be doing them a little differently. You're fighting differently, and if you're thin like me, you might be doing it differently also. From there, I started to go to Ron's place for a little bit, and had an issue with a knee issue, which kind of pulled me out for a while. And of course, now this virus thing.
We're all kind of stuck.
Oh yeah, and I saw you a few times there, Dean. I wanted to know what you did. And what I like about the Abenir is that it's very close to what I was learning at Bakbakan. It's efficient, and its footwork is sharp, and so that's pretty much where I am right now. In the meantime, I've also studied things like Xingyi for a couple of years, and I just love training martial arts, whether I'm actually doing anything, one-on-one with anybody or whatever it is, or just training. So.
No, good answer. So, all right, John, this is what I had for Sean.
Okay.
Sean's first FMA experience, and I sent him the questions, but if you could relay, hey, Sean, your first FMA experience. Let's try this.
Hey, Sean, can you hear me?
Yeah, I can hear you.
Are you guys getting the audio on, Sean?
Yeah, no, I can hear him perfectly.
Sean, could you tell us about your first FMA experience?
Well, I basically started when I was 4.5 at, on Water Street, and, learning the basics, boxing, wrestling, and Kali. And then a little bit down the line, Dean introduced me to what he was doing. And, I started to pick that up. And then when that place closed.
Dean, can you hear me? I lost sound.
I can hear you.
Okay. Can you hear Sean?
Oh, yeah.
Yep, I can hear.
Okay, I can't hear Sean, so I can just relay the questions, but I don't hear anything from Sean.
This is bizarre. No, I'm hearing him fine. So.
Yeah, I can hear Phil, but I can't hear Sean.
So, no, I was hearing him fine. So tell him to continue.
Okay, sorry, Sean, continue.
So, yeah, and then when the place on Water Street closed, I found out about him on Winston Road, and, we just picked up where I left off.
Ask him, John, his first exposure was Tien's Kali back when he started. We were doing basically the long jab, short and long thin X, what he thought.
Sean, back when we were doing Atienza Kali, and they were doing the long and short jab and the short thin X, what did you think about that?
Yeah, it was really interesting, but it's kind of the baseline of where you start, and then you just keep building up and learning new techniques.
Can't argue that. All right, next. Okay, we're gonna circle back. So we'll start with you, Phil. Since we got your background, when I'm going to take a different approach tonight. I want to go over AK,
Mhm.
but I also, because you guys have done so many other systems or been exposed to other systems besides AK, where some of the AK guys, that was their kind of their first thing. You know, they might have touched on maybe other stuff, but like from the guys in the Philippines, a lot of them, AK was their first deal. So I also want to kind of cross paths with functionality. But for the meantime, let's. I'm going to go on to. We'll start with AK first. Um, what was the initial Phil? What I know you shared with us like your previous experience, and you kind of obviously have an eye to compare and contrast. But what was it about AK that initially attracted you?
It's very close to what I was learning in New Jersey, the Illustrissimo material and the footwork. I like that sharp, economical movement. I maybe it's age. I don't like having to move more than I have to. And what I noticed in his system is, you watch his videos, he's very quick.
Yeah.
The footwork is tight. Like we were going over a little bit, you and I, the sort of that box type of thing, which is very similar to a movement in Illustrissimo, or well, Master Ray would call it the poet. It's kind of you bring your back foot to that straight line and kind of straighten your whole body out, and the knife goes forward. But I like that type of movement, short, just getting out of the way type movements, which can be very deceptive to the other person. It looks like you're about to get hit, and then you move by a couple of inches, and which you've done to me a lot of times here, Dean, which wasn't fun, but I also, and I thought I was doing well. But I also like he's got a good practical self-defense aspect to it. When we were working on some of the knife stuff, people do, if you grab somebody's arm and they have a blade, they are going to pull back, and he does cover those types of things. So.
No, good answer. I mean, again, John.
Yes.
What was your initial attraction to AK?
The reality of it.
Yeah, I can't argue that.
There's so many. The thing that, honestly, not with you, but some other systems that I've seen in Kali, some of the drills, I don't know how they would ever pull that off live. So with the AK stuff, anything I see, it looks functional. It's nothing fancy. I like that they mix the ranges. They do knife grappling. They let it go to the ground. I guess that's my main attraction, because I come from that boxing, wrestling, jiu-jitsu background where it's competitive. So I really like when they're feeding, it feels real. So I guess that's the thing I like the most. Plus, when I first had that introduction to Marvin, it's just the attitude too about Marvin and all the AK guys. They're just very humble, high quality martial artists, but just a good spirit, humble people, fun to work with. You know what I mean? So I guess that's what it is. Their attitude and their functionality. That's the attraction for me.
I think that's fantastic, because that was definitely some of the things that resonated with me. Particularly being exposed to other systems where, I hate to say it, but it is what it is, where you have, particularly in the Western side, where you'll have people that are trying to be like the next Tuhan. And they come up, they're egotistical. There is, unfortunately, not everybody, of course. I'm just saying some of the experiences that I had in previous systems, and it's completely zero and void in this system.
Yes.
It's zero.
Yes.
You know what I mean? It's almost like there's a zero tolerance for it.
Yeah.
So I think that was well put by you. All right, for Sean.
Okay.
All right, Sean. Sean, you started AK in 2016. What did you like about it?
Sean, you started AK in 2016. What did you like about it?
I definitely like the Illustrissimo sword, and I like that it was like a good flow. It wasn't like it was practical. It was useful, and it added footworks and different types of counters to add to like sword and stick, and it was a good flow. It wasn't like too rough, and yeah, it was practical use.
Good answer on the counters and all that. My goodness.
The
Sean,
prodigy.
let's go on you. Uh, you mentioned you like the illustrations from sword work and all that. Just what could you give us, like far as that goes? Like, you're one that's doing very well in short and long. Punti dagger, spotty dagger, depending on what you want to call it. What has that done for you as far as your awareness?
Sean, you mentioned you like the Illustrissimo sword.
Yeah.
What did you like about it? Did you want me to add more to that, Dean?
That's good.
Okay.
I like the fact that you had a sword and a knife, and if you got your sword arm trapped, you still had something to work with. And I like the fact that it was a pat. You could use one as a pass and one as to cut. It was definitely very different than just stick or knife. You would had both.
Good, good, fantastic. Just so everybody's watching, Sean, I did an article, an FMA informative. I hope everybody could see this, and because just to give Sean some spotlight here, it was back in 2017, and we can ever see it? Yeah, here it is, and Sean was the feature of the article. And basically, what the article was on, I was getting kids involved in FMA, and I used Sean for an interview. Not only did he did incredibly well, but it was one of the most downloaded versions on FMA Informative. Unfortunately, FMA Informative kind of went under, but just so everybody knows that Sean's been a diligent hard worker for many years now. All right, we're gonna go. Okay, I thought those were excellent answers as far as your guys' initial attraction to AK and all that. Let's I just want to switch gears, but I'm not really, because it's still going to fall in line with some of the things that came up as far as AK and all that. And John touched upon it as far as the functionality, and what really attracted me is before I get into asking you guys, is what when I saw clips on Facebook of Maestro Long and the students, and they're just doing it. I mean, you could, I mean, it wasn't like you had to kind of decipher what they were doing. I mean, they were just doing it, and I'm like, was so refreshing to see, and all that. And along with that, when I kind of coined it, they're really doing it, meaning that just coming from such a functional perspective, whether it was stick or whether they were doing sword stuff, or and what really highlighted me is their approach empty-hand against knife. I'm like, wow, they are doing it realistically. They are actually like embracing failures and not always being successful, but being honest. And then
honest. Yeah.
Things that John touched upon and all that. So what can you, as far as that goes, what can you guys in your opinion of what you've seen thus far? And it could be just one, I'll throw out a word out there and you guys can tell me, all right, as far as AK functionality. And we'll go, Phil, combative truth. Just anything you want to say.
About AK functionality?
Yeah.
Well, I got to be honest. I mean, I haven't been with you that long. From what we've done, I mean, I find it, like I said, I find it very functional as far as the footwork goes. On a personal level, what I'm learning now with you is I'm kind of adding on to what I've had in the past. And I think for myself, I like to be in mid-range more than outside range and more than too close. So some of the stuff I saw we've done with Abenir, is especially with the knife, was pretty much where I kind of like to be. You know, you get in close, use your head, you bang, use your shoulder, you stay to a certain side. I like to be to the outside rather than on the inside. And again, a lot of AK right now is kind of melding into the other stuff that I've learned. It fits in very well. Some of the stuff I learned is not very functional. A lot of the other stuff I learned was. I can get the feel though with AK that it's all functional. That's its goal, is to be a very functional system. But on saying that, everything that I've learned has never been wasted. It wasn't a waste of time for me. It wasn't anything that, you know, I could sit there and say there was no use for it. I think that functionality has a lot to do with who you are, what your attributes are. You know, certain systems are good for certain people. Others are good for other people. I particularly like that, like I say, that mid-range kind of fighting. I do like AK because it is it can be very close in. And like I said, we haven't done a lot with it so far. We've done some sparring, and I think, I know a few times we've trained, I've also said, hey, you know, I want to try this too. But I do find it to be a very, very functional system that doesn't want to, that is not going to waste its time doing a bunch of drills that aren't going to matter at the moment. They want to get right into it. And you know, that's a great thing. And I think that if anybody wants to learn a good system, that would be the way to go. The only thing I would say about that, though, is when it comes to pressure testing in any system, is you've got to look, the student has got to get far enough ahead in that system that they're comfortable at that level of pressure testing. You know, some students go in and the teachers want them to do it day one.
Yeah.
And
Agreed.
it's a mess. They can't do it. You know? So.
Agreed. There's got to be incremental, you know,
Yeah.
incremental resistance and all that. No, I don't have any. I think that's a good point. John, well, thank you, Phil. Well said. John, as far as within functionality, functional truth and the honesty as far as results go, I figured this would be a good one for you.
Yeah, like you were saying, that's what I appreciate about the AK guys. The attitude, of course, it kind of feels like a family. Everybody's friendly. There's no weird hierarchy stuff. You know what I mean? But the functionality part and the honesty. Not a lot of Kali systems will put out failure or something that doesn't go right. So I really appreciate that they're going at an intensity level where things don't always go right. So there was one where they were on the beach and the student fell over and they didn't stop. It didn't end. You know, it kept going and he worked his way back up to his feet. I don't remember exactly what happened, but I love that raw honesty where they're not making everything look pretty. It is what it is. You can do what you can do. And if you end up in a bad situation, well, you got to work yourself out of that bad situation. But like we've talked so many times over the years, it's if you don't have people that feed you realistically, you're never going to know what you're capable of. And that was my big attraction. I looked at their feeds and I'm like, wow, he's really feeding in a realistic way. Because, you know, I watch the terrible knife videos, the real stabbings and stuff that you see in the community that my police friends send me. And it's awful, but it does not at all look like some Kali training that I see. It has a different feel to it, a different energy to it. And they had that same energy of reality, but within a very, you could tell that they were technical at the same time. So that's just my thing. I just want to be honest. I want to know what I can do. I want to train with people that are honest and sharing information that can be pulled off in reality.
No, I think that was on point. I agree with you. And and just to kind of piggyback off what you're saying, the honesty, like you have to be around the honesty has to be around whoever you're training with. Like you might not like the results, but they are what they are.
They are what they
And
are.
from there, like take those results and then improve upon them and reduce your failures, where you start seeing success, regardless of the module or what you're doing. But, I don't know, that's one of the first things, I saw about them, that honesty, like you were saying. And I think I'm pretty sure the example you used on the beach there, where and I know there's other videos where you'll see him over there training. The guy's falling down all over the place. But yeah, you're right.
Yeah,
He's not
all over the
stopping
place.
there.
Yeah.
I mean, guy's getting on top. He's still trying to kill the person. I mean, it's right.
They even
You know.
put their guys in like unwinnable situations. Like there was that
Mhm.
one video where they're in a school somewhere, and that one guy surrounded by like 5 people with knives. Like, who's going to win that? Nobody's going to win that. But they put him in there, and the guy just did his best. And I
Yeah.
think there's something to be said about that kind of egoless, honest training, that you put yourself in those horrible positions. No matter how bad you're going to look, at least you've experienced it. So now if you end up in something like that, you've been there before. And
Yeah.
that was very appealing to me, that mindset.
Yeah. No. And it goes along, which I'm going to, which we'll ask Sean now. We'll get him in there. Just how are what we just talked about? I don't want to get into stress inoculator yet, but that's coming up. Just like how Sean has benefited from being introduced where there's not always going to be success, and how that's helped him.
Sean, how have you benefited from being in a training environment where you're not always going to be successful, where the intensity level or the situation is too tough and you might fail? How has that affected you?
It just makes you work harder. It just keeps making you try, different things, try and figure out a different way to approach, defending yourself, or, moving different footworks to get out of that situation. And it just keeps you on your toes to, learn more.
Excellent. So, and again, this will be for Sean. And this will be for all you guys as well. Sean, just far as drills versus attribute development, you've heard me talk about this in the class, and all that, where I make the compare and contrast, where not that drills are bad, but if you're seeking functionality, attribute development tends, well, in the direction we're going, tends to not only benefit but bring out a better fighter.
You want me to ask him how he feels about it?
Please.
Sean, how do you feel training attribute development versus drills? And what are the benefits of attribute development?
It's like a trial and error. During a drill, it's going to be the same thing over and over, but live sparring, it might be a different look. It might be a different angle or different setup to get to that technique that you were drilling. So just, makes you develop different responses for even a different attacker, like a different sized person or a different skilled person. It's like a trial and error to keep learning how to diffuse the situation.
John, Tom, thank you. And just secondly, as far as the attribute development, can he say that it's basically made him more functional because he's working on, for instance, like accuracy, perception and reaction, timing, speed, non-telegraphic, all those things.
Sean, do you feel the attribute development has made you a better fighter in the different areas What were you saying? The other areas Dean?
Like accuracy,
Accuracy,
speed, power,
speed, power,
you perception, reaction, non-telegraphic.
perception, reaction, non-telegraphic. Do you feel that's made you a better fighter, and how?
Yeah, during sparring, you have to apply all those things, or it's just not gonna work. You're just gonna get hit all the time. So, and it also helps in different types of martial arts like boxing. So you gotta be able to manage your distance to be able to hit the person but not get hit. In and out, different footworks.
Okay, thank
But
you.
yeah, it's definitely been beneficial.
Okay, yeah, I could say that for you for sure. Outside looking in. Um, Phil, drills versus attribute development. In other words, before you answer, AK doesn't have a lot of drills.
Right.
Very few. However,
Mhm.
that doesn't mean drills are bad. So I don't want this getting taken the wrong way or
Oh, not at all, not at all. And I have the answer for it, at least from my perspective. I've been practicing FMA since '83. I've seen systems where, like Modern Artist does, they don't do a lot of sparring from what I've seen and what I've been part of, and they do a lot of drilling. And then you have like Electrissimo or Bakbakin where they spar a lot. And they used to have a tournament twice a year where they invited everybody. And they didn't care if their guys won or lost, they just wanted everybody to participate. I'm a firm believer in if you're going to learn a martial art, you learn drills and attributes are brother and sister. You need to work drills, and you need to apply those drills in your sparring. And yes, sparring is going to be much, much different than a drill, right? But Dean, what if I said to you, okay, next time we spar, we're going to spar in a 4x4 box. And normally we spar, you're running around the room, you're jumping back, you're going, it's basically a straight line a lot of times, right? You're trying to hit each other's hand. But if I said we're going to spar in a 4x4 box, some of those drills, box pattern, things like that, come into a little bit, not a lot, but a little bit, and you're going to see that come out in that situation. Now, when we're sparring, normally where we're a few feet apart and you're going back and forth and you try to hit the hand, try to make an entry, that type of thing. That's also super important. And that's why you use things like, I will use that speed ball and things like that. Some people hate doing forms, but my attitude is, well, forms are like a bit of a dictionary. And when you get to be older, you're not going to be sparring back and forth the way some of the guys do now, because you're probably going to get hurt, and that's just from experience. So as far as attributes and drills go, I think they're equally important, but you've got to do both, in my opinion. Some people don't like learning disarms. And, when I'm doing if I'm doing, say, a box pattern drill or a sombrata drill, I'll say, okay, you learned a couple of disarms, find them. So you're going back and forth. And when that person feels that disarm, he tries to do it. Half the time they don't get it. It doesn't come out. They're not strong. They don't, whatever it is. But when they do get it, they find that flow. But then now you have to try to apply that in a sparring situation. And that's where it becomes a whole different ball game. But you've got to try and find that connection. I mean, that's just my perspective. I guess I just kind of like everything about FMA, so I guess that's why I take from that stance. But I believe in doing everything from ground one, your basics, all the way to the sparring situation. And sparring with everything, stick, sword, knife, and empty hand.
Sure. No, thank you. John, your perspective.
I like the model of well, if you're learning something from someone else, you can't just spar with it right away. You have to learn the actual mechanic first. So I like learning a particular mechanic, or a technique, and then getting so it feels relatively comfortable. Just trust the instructor that this is a valid technique and learn the technique. Then I like going to sparring isolation. If you move that technique into a setting where you're just doing open sparring, you might not ever see that again. So I like the drills that you brought back and we've been doing, or we were doing, where you you force yourself to work on just that technique in an isolated setting. So maybe you can't move your feet. You have, like Phil was saying, maybe you're in a, you make yourself stay in a closer range so you're not jumping out of range all the time.
Mhm.
And then after applying or isolating that technique, then you might want to have some chains that come off of that technique. So now you go back to the drilling part again, where you're drilling that technique, but now you've added, if this happens, then this is your next counter. So you start building, like it's spreading out in a chain. And then after you built that, then you go back to isolating again, but now you're isolating with two links in the chain. So that's kind of how I see it. A lot of my technique in any of the arts, I do that like what they do in jujitsu. I don't know if you ever see me do it, the mapping. You know what I mean? Where you'll start off with one technique, and then if the opponent does this, this is your response. If the
Oh,
opponent
okay,
does
okay.
that, this is your response. And it kind of it becomes like a little spider web of technique. And I I do that with our empty hand versus knife. You know what I mean? If the
Yeah,
person does this, then I do that. But I don't do a lot of long drilling. You know what I mean? I keep it pretty limited to a technique, sparring isolation, chains, and then open sparring.
yeah. I like everything you guys said. The way I look at it is, I think drills are. I would never tell you drills are not good. I mean that's just almost blasphemous. However, I think sometimes with certain systems, they start to get where it's so predominant, they lose a sense of reality in the realm of what actually happens in combat and sparring, and thus becomes a disconnect. It's just sometimes just seeing some of the systems that perhaps have a lot of them. Now, I'm not saying those drills can't be reconstructed to be functional. I
Mhm.
mean, I'm sure they could. I'm just saying the more that seems to become into the system per se or syllabus, many times or not, it just seems like it gets farther away from the realm of reality is what I'm seeing. And that's why it's not that I don't appreciate it, but because like for instance, like let's look at Burton Richardson's stick, level 2 stick. Basically what he has is it's a 4-point block system. And for the most part, it's a drill. Angle comes here, block. Angle comes there, block. You got your overhead, and then you got a reverse. You can expand on that, but for the pure essence of just that, I mean, it's basically a drill. I mean, you can add to it and all that. So I think some of them are good, but long as that they parallel to what kind of happens in the fight, so to speak.
Yeah, that's a
You know,
good
and
point.
and I just don't, and I think some of these systems, I think that gets lost in essence. You know what I mean? And I hate to say, and to be, perfectly honest. And I've gotten verbal spats right here on Facebook about that, and people didn't agree with me and all that. But you know what? Evidence is evidence. You know what I mean? Like knife, like we talked about, John. I mean, you see some of that stuff that's being drilled in knife. I'm sorry if you think that stuff's going to actually work empty hand. It's just,
It's not going to happen.
I mean,
No.
but yeah, so that's kind of my take. But no, I thought that was some good stuff. We gotta get to Sean here. Sean, what we got for you? Sean, within AK, what is your favorite module, weapon? I mean, anything that what do you really like?
What's your favorite, Sean? What's your favorite module or weapon or piece of AK that you really enjoy the most?
It definitely have to be the Illustrissimo sword and knife. It's very practical that sometimes you would have two weapons, and if one is, you drop it, you have this knife still, or you still have the sword, and you can use one as to pass and the other to cut, or it's enjoyable. It's a good flow. It's no not beating each other with sticks the entire time, but it's still it's enjoy. I do enjoy it.
John, if you could just ask him kind of a part two with regards to sword. What does he think about like the various defensive movements that he's been exposed to, as opposed to just some umbrella blocks or all that? But like, for instance, like he's been exposed to, Fraile, Boca de Lobo, Estrella series, and Cruzadas and all that.
So repeat again what you want me to ask
Yeah,
him.
if you could just ask him, because by what he mentioned, as far as Illustrissimo goes, within the AK, heavily influenced. I mean, Illustrissimo being like 8% of the system. What does he feel about the different, defensive movements? For instance, like Fraile.
Sean, what do you feel about the different defensive movements of sword work with AK, like Fraile, and what was the other one?
Boca de Lobo, the
Boca de Lobo.
Cruzadas.
Did he hear me?
Not sure.
Yeah, what was the question?
Sean, did you hear my question?
Yeah, can you repeat it?
Yes, they repeat it.
Okay. What do you think about the different could you repeat it again, Dean? I don't remember what you said.
No. Yeah, like in other words, the defensive movements are very different than when he's been exposed as far as the Atienza curriculum, all that, where defensive movements such as Fraile,
How do you
Media
feel,
Fraile.
Sean, about the defensive movements of sword, the different ones you've been exposed to, like Fraile?
Yeah, they're very useful, and not only that you're attacking, but you're also getting off the attack line, but they can be used for a stick too. It's not just sword and knife, it's stick. But I like how you're also advancing, but you're also getting off the center line and putting yourself in position for a counter.
Ah. Good job. All right, so okay. Before we get on to Phil.
Yes, sir.
I mean, again, just you don't have to necessarily go from the AK model, but just because like again, illustration of being 8% thereabouts. Just in your own what favorite weapon module.
I actually will agree with Sean on this. I do like the Espada y Daga part of it. Pardon?
Ongoing.
I great. You have a knife in one hand, your sword in the other, and it's the different geometry of this particular sword too. It's Filipino swords are about 17 inches in length for blade, 17 to 19 inches. They're quick, they're light, they're made for that kind of fighting, and I like to be able to get out of the line of an attack and be able to parry with one, thrust with the other, or I like to do a lot of the follow and then quick thrust with the sword. And you always have your knife as a backup. In what I learned in New Jersey, some of it was if the knife would actually be the shield, and then the sword would be your fighting weapon, and the sword could just be used, inside parry, outside parry, low, and then that would come in too as a backup. But yeah, I do like the Espada y Daga aspect of it quite a bit. And a single sword, just to use movements like de cadena or baksak. Those are very quick and very fast.
Yeah. Good answer, John. I'm gonna think of really. I'm gonna be. Gee, I don't know what you're gonna say, Farsher.
You know what I'm gonna say. For me, it's all about knife and empty hand versus knife. You know what I mean?
No argument here.
I do. I have done some sticks, some sword with you, but the vast majority, 95% of my training has been our knife training and empty hand versus knife.
Mm-hmm.
My reason is for me, I'm just very passionate about the combatives, self-defense aspect, and the empty hand training keeps you safe to get you to a firearm. if you carry a firearm. If you don't have a firearm, it keeps you safe. Knife versus knife makes everything sharper. So if you do have to defend yourself against a knife, you're used to the speed and the different angles and different footwork and everything else. So and I carry a knife, so I always have a knife on me. So it's just why wouldn't I train in that? You know what I mean? Knives are everywhere. They're in every kitchen. Or if I don't know what the actual numbers are as far as that, but I think knife attacks would be way up there in the States, where stick attacks or sword-based attacks is probably not as prevalent here as in the Philippines or Mexico or other countries like that,
Central America or
So I just really enjoy the functional aspect, and I think everything should revolve around the knife. If you're going to spar, you should be sparring, and your partner should be able to carry a knife. If you're wrestling, you should be wrestling, and they should be carrying a knife, because that could easily happen. So that's my thing. I'm just fascinated by the knife. I never get bored with it. As long as we've been doing it, we still keep make little improvements. Finding new scenarios that are horrible to torture each other. So that's what I like. A knife and empty hand.
Knife is obviously always kind of been my major at that. And I'm short and long. I'm just fascinated, just how many possibilities there are. You know what I mean? It just seems like an endless.
It is endless.
You know what I mean? And that keeps me motivated, intrigued, and moving. But if I had to pick one at the end of the day, it's going to be knife. You know what I mean?
Yeah, me too.
All right, all right. So let's get on to system. Okay, we'll go around. We'll let me see here. We'll start with system. We'll go back to Phil. System as a whole. Like again, I know you just joined, Phil, but just from and this could be anything from observation of humility, the cohesiveness of the group. I mean, just like, what do you see just overall as a whole regarding AK? You could be over there in the mainland, here,
It reminds, as far as the group goes, what I see, it kind of reminds me of, and I know I go back to this a lot. When I used to go to New Jersey, the students at Ray Galong's place, they were the most helpful. They would, work together, work with you. I mean, work with you on anything. And I just noticed, and I see a lot in some of his videos, how he's got that kind of a group that goes on. There doesn't seem to be any kind of, somebody getting out there with his chest puffed out and he's going to try to be better than the next guy. They're all out there to learn. They're all out there to work in that functionality, to work in that practical aspect of things. And I also notice that he doesn't sit there and say anything about one style being better than the next. At least I haven't seen that. Seems to be very inviting as to, and I think the system is more about, it's fine what you think. We just want to train, bring it on, bring it in. We'll practice. And if your stuff is good, we're going to learn off of that. And if our stuff is good, we're going to learn off of that too, So that's just kind of what I get from it for right now. Everybody seems to work together really well and that type of thing.
Yeah. Let's all right, John, then we'll get back to Sean.
Same question.
Sure.
Yeah, that's my take too. I feel like they're like honorable warriors kind of thing. Like there's kind of there's an unwritten kind of a code where there's no bad mouthing or undercutting somebody else. They're kind of open to new ideas. They let you be a little flexible, experiment. You know what I mean?
Yeah,
even bring some new ideas. Like I sent a video of the Kimura versus knife on the ground, and everybody had a great response to it. So it's just a nice community, and the training ethic of being extremely realistic. I just love that.
Yeah.
You know, they're mixing in jujitsu and sila and all different ranges into knife and stick, and oh no, they're just a great group to be associated with.
Yeah. I feel the same way. I mean, just one of the things like, when I first met Marvin, I mean, first what appealed to me, from afar, Ct Abenir just came across as just a really, without knowing him, just a humble, hardworking individual. Just the way he wrote things and the way he presented himself. I just saw something from afar that just really appealed to me. Not only just the system, but him as a person
As
from
a
afar.
person, yeah.
Yeah, it just, and I think that where that's important is, and I alluded this to part one with the other guys, that I think that's why everybody's the way they are, because they see it just flow down. You know what I
Right.
mean? Like, and there's just like, so if it's coming, from top to bottom and all that, you're not gonna, I think that's gonna greatly reduce having any of that behavior that's just
Right.
unproductive to a group, or that doesn't really go in the direction of bringing everybody together for a cohesive group. And I tell you, this is a very tight group. Like,
Right.
there's
And big
nobody.
too.
Yeah, I mean,
For that
everybody's
many
very
people.
complimentary of one another, and all
Very
that. And
supportive.
yeah, and the thing is too is they allow you to experiment, and if you validate it, it gets incorporated. Like when Marvin, like when Marvin posted that video of me when he was trying to kill me.
That was a good one. Yeah.
Like, it was nothing but accolades, and they like really like that the 2-on-1, and like
Yeah.
you alluded to your ground and all that. Like, so they're incredibly open mind. Like, there's a lot of systems that it's just wet. Like,
That's it. Yeah. Yeah.
it doesn't, what I mean, for whatever reason. But yeah, so I don't know. I'm with both of you. It's really it's a nice breath of fresh air.
It is.
Let's go to Sean, because we're almost going to wrap up here. Let's ask Sean. So his question for Sean is future goals within FMA.
What's your future goal, Sean, in FMLA? FMA. Do you have some goals you set for yourself? FMLA.
Did you say
Yeah, definitely. It's just, learn different techniques, methods, and styles, and just keep improving, finding, what works a lot better than some other things, and just trying to improve what I already have right now, and just learning different things.
Can't argue that. Tell him about when he becomes part two of this, because of his current age, he's been kind of, falling under the umbrella of kind of like assistant, or, or senior ranking or advanced, all that. But when he turns, he's going to get showered with a bunch of credentials when he turns 18. Is he, just tell him, is he looking forward to that?
Sean, are you, since you are younger and you can't get all the credentials that an adult would have, are you looking forward to when you turn 18 to getting those credentials and those goals achieved?
Yeah, I really am.
Oh, well, you're telling me he's well deserving of it, and I know he's been patient.
You are well deserved of all the accolades, Sean.
Yes.
Thank you.
All right, guys. Future goals, Phil, and we'll wrap up. What's your future goals?
Future goals, retirement.
It's a good one.
Yeah.
I'm gonna keep training in what I've been training in. We're gonna get together again soon, I hope. And
Very soon.
I just like to train. I like to train. I like to practice. I like to learn different aspects. Actually, I think I want to maybe get a hold of Mr. Richardson and go a little bit on the Bukti Nagara. I learned 90% of it. I just like to practice, and I'll probably do it till I can't do it anymore. I'm not really up on, getting rankings and all that, but I like to train and spar and get together with guys and see where it goes from there.
Yeah, no, I'm with you there, John.
For me, I just want to get back to work with our empty hand versus knife. I feel like we have come so far. Maybe the past 5 years or so, I think we've just like leaps and bounds in the area of empty hand versus knife. So I just think I was so excited. It was really all getting mapped out, all the various situations and the high resistance. And it's maybe not exactly where I want it or where you want it, and I'm sure it could get better. But I feel we really got something there, something that I hate to be boastful, but I think it's one of the best empty hand versus knife that I've ever seen. And I would like to at some point share that with other people. So I'd like us to get back together and get back to work and clean everything, make it perfect. That's my goal, is to just master that empty hand versus knife.
Yeah, that's a long longevity of that. I mean, I mean, I don't know if you ever finish that, you know what I mean?
It's like the hardest thing in martial arts, I think. One of the hardest.
Yeah. Those who do it realistically and all that see that.
Right.
If you're just kind of halfway and you're doing peels and without resistance, then unfortunately they'll never know. You know what I mean?
No.
Yeah. So, but well, this is fantastic. Here, let me just give a message to Sean since he can't hear. Yeah, so please tell Sean that he did fantastic, and thank you so much for coming on.
Sean, you did awesome. We really appreciate it. You did a great job, Dean says.
Thank you.
Okay, and tell him I'm looking forward to hopefully seeing him soon.
Dean's looking forward to seeing you again soon and beating you with a stick. No, he didn't say that. I just made that.
And Phil, I want to thank you for taking the time.
No problem. Love doing it.
No,
nice meeting you, Phil.
Yeah.
Nice meeting you guys. Hopefully, I'll see you guys at some point.
That would be great.
Yeah, I'm hoping soon.
Yeah.
Yeah. You know what? I think maybe in small groups, people can start to feel comfortable. And,
I think start
next month or so. But yeah, definitely. Thank you for having me on again.
Oh my gosh.
Yeah,
my
thanks,
pleasure.
Dean.
Yeah, my pleasure, guys. And I'll hopefully talk to all of you guys soon.
All right.
All right.
All right.
Take it easy, guys.
Take it easy. Have a good night.
You
Good night.
too. Okay, that wraps up part 2 of AK USA. So this Thursday will be part 3, and that will be our last segment on AK. Then I will be having back on Ka Marvin, Ka Vaughn, and Ka Joe, and they're all going to be a little more show and some talent, but they're going to be a lot of demos or from each one of them. So that should be exciting. So people can actually see, what's done in AK. So looking forward to that. So that'll be Thursday at 7, this coming Thursday. And if you haven't already, please hit like and subscribe to FMA Discussion on YouTube. Thank you all for watching, and have a good night.